Most people exhaust themselves chasing more money and nicer things, mistakenly believing it will finally buy them respect and happiness, only to end up trapped in a cycle of anxiety and never feeling like they have enough. But the solution isn't about working harder to acquire more wealth. It's about mastering the psychology of how you actually use the money you already have. In 10 Wonderful Secrets from the Art of Spending Money by Morgan Housel reveals how to stop using your wealth to impress strangers and start using it to buy your ultimate freedom, independence, and time. Listen now to discover the simple choices that will transform your money from a stressful master into a powerful tool for a truly richer life. Let's find out more.
Yeah, it really is the missing piece of the puzzle, isn't it? I mean, we spend, 12 to 16 years in school?
At least.
Right, and we learn algebra, we learn history. Maybe we even take an economics class where we learn about supply and demand. We are taught how to earn a salary, how to save a percentage, and maybe how to invest in an index fund. But nobody, absolutely nobody, teaches us how to spend.
It's so true. It feels like we're given this high-performance sports car, our income, but no one ever taught us how to actually drive the thing.
Exactly.
We just assume spending is the easy part. Like, I have money, I buy a thing, I feel good. But looking at Morgan Housel's work, it seems like that feel-good part is where everyone gets tripped up. It's not just math, is it?
Not at all. Housel argues that while accumulating money is a science, it's spreadsheets and compound interest, spending money is an art. It's entirely psychological. It's about your history, your trauma, your insecurities, and your ego. If you don't understand why you are tapping that card, you're just running on a hamster wheel.
I think that's where we need to start for this deep dive. Because I always thought spending was logical. If I buy a sandwich, it's because I'm hungry. If I buy a coat, it's because I'm cold.
Makes sense on the surface.
But Housel says spending is actually a mirror of your values. And more importantly, your past. That's the first big secret.
Yes. There's this great phrase he uses: all behavior makes sense with enough information.
Okay, unpack that a little.
Well, we love to look at how other people spend money and judge them. We see someone buy a ridiculous mansion or a car that costs more than a house, and we think, what an idiot. Why would they do that?
Guilty. I've definitely thought that.
We all have. But Housel suggests that spending is autobiographical. You aren't just buying stuff, you're trying to heal old wounds.
Healing wounds with a credit card, that sounds pretty expensive.
It is very expensive, but think about it. Housel brings up this fascinating example from a 1928 newspaper column by a guy named Robert Quillen. The headline was, "The more you were snubbed while poor, the more you enjoy displaying your wealth."
Oof. That hits a little close to home. It's kind of like that Pretty Woman moment, right?
Big mistake. Huge.
Walking back into the store that refused to serve you, just throwing down the cash.
Exactly. And there's a story in the source material about a very successful businessman. This guy came from nothing. Broken home, abject poverty. People looked down on him his whole life.
A real underdog story.
Right, so he claws his way up, becomes very wealthy, and eventually it's time for his daughter to go to college. Now, a logical person looks for the best education, right?
Right, you look for the best program, the best professors, for whatever she wants to study.
Not this guy. He told his daughter, very specifically, "I want you to pick the most expensive university you can get into."
Wait, not the best. Just the most expensive.
Just the most expensive.
That is wild.
To you and me, that sounds irrational. Why throw money away? But for him, that tuition bill wasn't about education at all. It was a social trophy.
Ah, I see.
It was a receipt he could wave in the face of everyone who ever doubted him. He wasn't buying knowledge. He was buying proof that he had made it. He was using money to medicate the shame of his childhood.
So for him, the high price tag was actually the feature, not the bug. The point was the expense.
Precisely.
But this psychology, it goes the other way too, doesn't it? You can be traumatized into not spending.
Absolutely. The sources mention Tiffany Elish, the financial educator. She talks about this concept of post-traumatic broke syndrome.
Is that a documented psychological thing?
It's a very real psychological state for people who have lived through severe scarcity. She was broke for so long that even when she became incredibly successful and had plenty of money in the bank, she was terrified to spend a dime.
Just paralyzed by the fear of going back to zero.
Exactly. She wasn't saving for a specific goal. She was hoarding for safety. Her trauma told her that the rug could be pulled out at any second.
Wow.
So you have two people, right? The businessman and the educator. Both have money, but they are acting in completely opposite ways entirely because of their pasts.
It really makes you rethink judging people. Nobody's crazy. They're just acting out a script written when they were kids.
That's a great way to put it.
But that brings up a weird contradiction for me.
Mm-hmm.
If we're spending based on our unique pasts, our unique traumas, why do we all end up buying the exact same stuff? Like, why does every rich guy buy the exact same luxury items?
The famous armchair story. This brings us to the next secret. Don't copy how others spend money. This is a perfect example of the trap of supposed to do.
Tell me about this chair.
So years ago, Housel was working as a valet at a high-end hotel in Los Angeles. He sees extreme wealth up close every single day. One day, a guy pulls up in a super flashy car, and he's venting to his friend. He's complaining that he just spent $21,000 on an armchair.
$21,000 for a chair? Does it give massages? Does it fly you to work?
It sits there. That is all it does. And the guy didn't even like it.
You're kidding.
No, he was actively complaining about the cost. But then he says something that stuck with Housel forever. He says, it's crazy, but when you have money, this is what you're supposed to do.
Supposed to do? That is so tragic.
It really is.
It's like he's following a manual that he hates.
Exactly. He wasn't buying a chair because he loved the craftsmanship or the lumbar support. He was performing a role. He thought, I am a rich person, and rich people own $20,000 furniture.
He was an actor on a stage.
Performing for an audience that wasn't even there.
But who is the audience? That's the thing. I feel like we spend so much money trying to impress people who, quite frankly, don't care about us at all.
That is what psychologists call the spotlight effect.
Mm-hmm.
We walk around thinking we are the main character in a movie and everyone is watching our every move.
We all do that a little bit.
We do. We think if I drive this Ferrari, everyone will look at me and think I'm cool and successful and admire me. But Housel points out a brutal truth. When people see a Ferrari drive by, they do not look at the driver.
They do.
No, they look at the car. And they imagine themselves driving it. They think, man, I would look so cool in that car. The actual driver is completely invisible to them.
That is fascinating.
You are spending a fortune to buy respect, but you're really just buying a prop for other people's daydreams.
So you're basically just a mannequin in a very expensive display window. That's a little depressing.
It is, but it's also incredibly liberating.
How so?
Because once you realize nobody is actually watching you, you can stop spending money to impress them. You can step off the treadmill.
Speaking of treadmills, let's talk about the happiness treadmill. Because surely, somewhere between the broke trauma and the $21,000 chair you hate, there is a happy medium.
You would hope so.
I mean, we've all heard the cliche that money can't buy happiness, but come on, try frowning on a jet ski. It's pretty hard.
It is hard, and Housel admits that. That's another of the secrets. Money does buy happiness, but only up to a point.
Right.
If you are struggling to eat or keep the heat on, money buys a massive amount of happiness because it directly solves survival problems.
It buys peace of mind.
Yes. But once the basics are covered, the relationship completely changes. The brain stops wanting stuff to survive, and it starts chasing dopamine.
That new car smell feeling.
Exactly. It's the hedonic treadmill. You buy the new phone, you get a hit of joy, and 3 weeks later, it's just your phone. Your baseline for happiness resets, but now your expectations are permanently higher.
Housel has a great story about this in the book, right? The parable of the Mexican fisherman. I feel like this story sums up the entire modern work culture perfectly.
It really does. So picture this. You have an American investment banker, very high-strung, very successful. He's vacationing in a small coastal village in Mexico.
Okay.
He's standing on the pier, and he sees a local fisherman pull up in a small boat with a few beautiful yellowfin tuna. The banker is impressed. He asks the fisherman, how long did it take you to catch those? And the fisherman shrugs and says, oh, only a little while.
And the banker, being an efficiency expert, immediately goes into problem-solving mode.
Right. He says, well, why didn't you stay out longer? You could have caught way more fish. And the fisherman smiles and says, well, this is enough to support my family's immediate needs.
Which confuses the banker.
Deeply. The banker asks, but what do you do with the rest of your time?
I love the fisherman's answer here.
He says, I sleep late, fish a little, play with my children, take a siesta with my wife, and stroll into the village each evening where I sip wine and play guitar with my amigos. I have a full and busy life.
Sounds like absolute paradise.
But the banker can't handle it. He says, listen, I have an MBA from Harvard. I can help you.
Of course he does.
And he lays out this grand, stressful plan. He says, you should spend more time fishing. Buy a bigger boat. With the profits, buy a fleet of boats. Instead of selling to a middleman, you can sell directly to the processor, eventually opening your own cannery. You can move to Mexico City, then LA, then New York, listing your company on the stock exchange and making millions.
And the fisherman asks the obvious question, how long will this take?
The banker says, 15, maybe 20 years.
And then what?
The banker laughs and says, that's the best part. When the time is right, you can sell your company, become very rich, move to a small coastal village, sleep late, play with your kids, take siestas, and play guitar with your friends.
He was already doing it.
He was already exactly where the banker wanted him to end up. The banker was prescribing 20 years of intense stress and burnout to achieve a life that the fisherman already possessed.
That is the ultimate gotcha moment. It shows that happiness is really just the gap between your expectations and your reality.
Precisely. The fisherman had low expectations and high reality, so he was incredibly happy. The banker had massive expectations, so he was constantly chasing something.
So if your income doubles, but your desire for more also doubles, you haven't actually moved forward at all.
You're just running faster in place.
So if chasing more isn't the answer, what is? Because Housel talks about calmness being the ultimate luxury.
Calmness. Not a bigger house, not a faster car, but a calmer mind. He suggests something called a reverse obituary exercise.
A reverse obituary. Sounds a little morbid, but okay.
Stick with it. Imagine your own funeral. Think about the people standing up to give your eulogy. What do you actually want them to say about you?
I mean, for me, I hope they say I was funny. I hope they say I was a reliable friend. I definitely don't need them to say, hey, he had a really diversified portfolio and a fantastic watch collection.
Exactly. Nobody lists square footage or horsepower on a tombstone. We want to be remembered for how we treated people, the impact we had. And you can only treat people well, you can only be present if you have the time and the mental bandwidth to do so.
Which requires calmness.
That's the real luxury. It's not about owning the Ferrari. It's about not needing to own the Ferrari to feel good about yourself and your place in the world.
That connects really well to the distinction Housel makes between being rich and being wealthy. I always use those two words completely interchangeably, but he says they are almost total opposites.
This is a critical distinction to grasp. Rich is current income. It's what you can see. If you see someone driving a $100,000 car, the only thing you know for absolute sure about their finances is that they have $100,000 less than they used to.
Or $100,000 more in debt.
Right. Rich is loud. It's visible.
Rich is the peacock feathers.
Exactly. But wealth is hidden. Wealth is the money you haven't spent. It's the option to buy something later. It's the assets in the bank that haven't been converted into toys yet. And because it's unspent, it buys you the most important thing in the world.
Independence.
Independence. Housel has that great line, wealth without independence is a unique form of poverty.
That is terrifyingly true. There's a story about a CEO in the source material that illustrates this perfectly.
Oh, yes. This guy was, on paper, worth tens of millions of dollars. He lived the absolute dream life. Huge estate, boats, luxury cars, but it was all built on leverage.
So he had to earn a massive salary just to service the debt on his own lifestyle.
He was running on a treadmill set to the highest possible speed, and he couldn't step off for a second.
And then the 2008 financial crisis hit.
And the treadmill stopped. The banks called in the loans. Within a few months, he was completely liquidated. He had all the trappings of a rich man, but he had zero control over his own life. He was a slave to his expenses.
Now contrast that with John Urschel. This guy is my absolute hero from these sources.
The NFL player.
Yes, he was an offensive lineman for the Baltimore Ravens. He was making millions of dollars playing professional football. But do you remember what he was driving?
A used Nissan Versa hatchback.
A used hatchback. He lived on something like $25,000 a year.
An NFL player living on a grad student budget.
And here is the kicker. Because he saved almost everything he made, he had complete and total control over his life. When he decided he wanted to retire from the NFL at age 26 to pursue a PhD in mathematics at MIT, he just did it.
He didn't have to worry about a massive mortgage or luxury car payments.
Right. He just walked away from millions to follow his passion because his low expenses bought his freedom.
That is wealth. Wealth is the ability to wake up in the morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. That freedom is worth way more than a luxury sedan.
But getting to that point, it requires a totally different mindset. It requires staying power. There's a whole section on how getting rich and staying rich are two completely different skills.
They require opposite mindsets. Getting rich requires risk, optimism, putting yourself out there. Staying rich requires paranoia, frugality, and a healthy dose of fear.
And the Vanderbilt family is the perfect historical example of how not to stay rich.
Oh, the Vanderbilts. It is a financial tragedy of Shakespearean proportions. Cornelius Vanderbilt, the Commodore, was one of the richest men in human history. Adjusted for inflation, his wealth was in the hundreds of billions. He built a massive transportation empire.
And he passed that incredible fortune down to his family. But what happened?
Within roughly 60 years of his death, the family fortune was effectively gone. Zero. One of his direct descendants actually died completely broke.
How do you even blow a fortune that size? That almost takes effort.
You do it by letting money become your master instead of your tool. The heirs were obsessed with social standing. They built these massive, ridiculous castles in New York and Newport. Some of them they barely even slept in.
Just empty monuments to themselves.
They threw lavish parties just to outdo their neighbors. They had an unspoken family motto that tells you everything you need to know. Expense regardless of pleasure.
Expense regardless of pleasure. I think that is the most toxic phrase I have ever heard.
It means spending money just to prove to other people that you can, even if the thing you are buying brings you absolutely no joy. They were competing in a game that had no finish line and no winner. They became slaves to their own image.
It's the exact opposite of what the sources call quiet compounding. That's the term used for Chuck Feeney, right? The duty-free shoppers guy.
Chuck Feeney is the ultimate anti-Vanderbilt. He was a billionaire, the co-founder of Duty Free. But if you met him on the street, you would never, ever know it. He flew economy class. He didn't own a car. He wore a cheap plastic watch.
Because, as he famously said, it tells the same time as a Rolex.
Exactly. And what did he do with his billions?
He gave it away?
All of it.
Yeah.
He gave away $8 billion to charities and universities while he was still alive. His stated goal was to die broke.
And he seemed genuinely happy doing it.
He was incredibly happy. That is quiet compounding. He recognized that frugality is a superpower, not a limitation. He didn't have the social debt of needing to maintain a billionaire image.
He wasn't worried about people trying to rob him or envy him.
Right. He used money as a tool to execute his own values, which was helping people not to inflate his ego.
That concept of social debt is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Can we dig into that a bit more? Because usually we think being rich makes people like you. We want the big house so people think we're great.
It actually does the opposite most of the time. Think about it like this. If you are the only guy in your neighborhood with a swimming pool during a massive heat wave, and you build a 10-foot-high fence and never invite anyone over, your neighbors don't admire you.
They resent you.
They hate you. That hate, that resentment, that is social debt.
You've put a target on your own back.
Exactly. You're wealthy, but you're isolated. But if you open the gate, if you invite the neighborhood kids over for a swim, or you host a barbecue for the block, that envy transforms into gratitude.
So generosity pays off the social debt.
It does. It buys you safety, community, and genuine friendship. Things that hoarding money in a vault can never buy.
So we've talked about saving, and we've talked about not being a show-off. But we also don't want to be misers. We don't want to be the richest person in the graveyard with zero memories. How do you balance saving for that ultimate freedom with actually living your life today?
This brings us to a really powerful concept from the sources, the idea of regret minimization. Jeff Bezos famously talks about this. Projecting yourself forward to age 80 and asking, will I regret not doing this?
Right. And Housel has a really cool spin on this. He says we should look at memories as financial assets.
Yes, this is such a great mental model for spending. Think about a vacation you take in your 30s. Let's say it costs $5,000.
Which feels like a lot of money to spend all at once.
It is. But you aren't just consuming that vacation like a sandwich. You are buying a memory. And that memory pays you a dividend of nostalgia every single time you think about it for the next 50 years.
The dividend of nostalgia. I love that framing.
If you wait until you're 80 to take that exact same trip, you might have more money in the bank, but you missed out on 50 years of dividends. You missed out on sharing that memory with your kids while they were young. So sometimes the frugal thing to do, the smartest investment, is actually to spend the money because the memory compounds in value much longer than the cash would have in an index fund.
That is a relief to hear. So I can buy the expensive latte if it brings me joy.
If it brings you genuine joy or it facilitates a great conversation with a friend, absolutely. Just don't buy the latte to impress the barista or people on social media.
Fair enough. It seems like it all comes down to alignment. Money just amplifies who you already are.
That's the final secret. The art of spending is the art of living. The luckier you are, the nicer you should be. Money is fundamentally just a magnifying glass. If you are a jerk and you get rich, you just become a massive jerk with a megaphone.
But if you are kind,
money allows you to be kinder. It allows you to tip better, to donate more, to take care of your family without stress.
So the goal isn't just get money. It's become the kind of person who can handle money.
Exactly. The goal is to wake up every morning with a profound sense of calm. To know that if your car breaks down, it's just a minor inconvenience, not a life-altering disaster. To know that you can spend time with your kids without checking your email every 5 minutes because you're terrified of losing your job.
Having that ultimate control.
That control is the highest return on investment you will ever find.
Like John Urschel. I can do whatever I want today.
That is the only luxury that truly matters.
Well, I think I'm going to go look at my bank statement a little differently today. Maybe cancel a few subscriptions to things I'm just supposed to have and plan a trip that I actually want to take.
Sounds like a very wealthy choice.
Yeah.
Just remember, spending is a mirror. Make sure you actually like the reflection staring back at you.
Before we wrap up this deep dive, it leaves you with a pretty interesting question. We spend so much time building these portfolios, tracking our net worth down to the penny, trying to buy our time back. But what if the ultimate financial flex isn't just buying your time back? What if true financial freedom is reaching a point where you can stop tracking your net worth altogether because you finally realize it's no longer the metric that defines your life? Something to think about next time you check your balance. Thank you for watching, Ross. Please like out, share, subscribe, follow up in the next video.